You have 360-degree rotation. Hello folks, and welcome to Netcruzer Tech. I have a new tech unboxing for you today, and it's of a new gimbal, the ZhiYun Smooth Q. Now last year, at about the same time, I got my very first smartphone gimbal, which was the DJI OSMO Mobile, the first one. And I got rid of it in the summer because I just found that it was a little bit too expensive, I wasn't using it enough, and it had some limitations that I didn't like. Now this one is quite a bit cheaper than an Osmo Mobile. This is around $100 US right now. They've just recently dropped the price on these. It's a fantastic value for what it can do. It's essentially the exact same thing as an Osmo style smartphone gimbal, but it has some better features in my opinion. So let's get into that. And this is the inside box that it came in. So inside of this box is the ZhiYun wrapping, which is kind of interesting that they designed their own bag. Now this company is not just a fly-by-the-night Chinese no-name company. This company, ZhiYun, makes some very good gimbals for bigger cameras. And so I have high expectations for this product, and I'm expecting it to be able to do a lot. So you get the case, the gimbal will be inside of this, and then in here you get the instruction manual as well as the strap for the case. Inside of this manual, what do we got here? This is probably the quick start guide. You get all of your information, health and safety, battery safety, how to adjust the balance, how to swap it from portrait mode to regular mode, you know, just all your typical stuff. So we won't go into that too much. As I know how these type of gimbals work, so let's just get right into it. With DJI it was more of a sack, and this one is actually it's a double zipper design. Oh, you gotta zip it all the way around. So this is your hinge point here. Now while this case seems better, it's actually a little bit more limited because you don't have storage. It's only designed to hold the gimbal. Just fits the gimbal and not much else. I mean, you can try and probably put a cable or two in there, but with the other one, with DJI's version, since it's a bit more of a malleable case, you can fit more stuff in it. Now this is the Smooth Q. They do make a Smooth 3 and a couple of other higher end variants. But for me, this is exactly the one that I wanted for a few reasons. It has the bigger battery. So it has I think it has a 2000, or I have to look at the specs, but it has a big battery inside. And that on the very bottom there is a rubber cover where it has a full-size USB-A port so that you can charge your devices while it's on the gimbal. Here is your charge port here where it's micro USB. You have a joystick. Your record button is also your on-off button. Your mode button changes how it reacts to your movements, and then you have a zoom slider. Now, in my opinion, the biggest advantage of the ZhiYun's over DJI's version of gimbals is this. You have 360-degree rotation, which that was the thing that I thought that the DJI had, but they don't. Okay, here we have the DJI OSMO Mobile. I was really hoping that it would rotate a full 360 degrees. So this is the limit. So it locks here to here. How cool would it be if this had no limit, if it could just rotate fully and track an object in full 360 degrees? Because with the active track, wouldn't it be super cool if you could track an object in a full 360? Even their newest gimbal that's coming out, the DJI OSMO Mobile 2, does not do 360 degree rotation. That's a big deal for me. I like to record RC stuff, fast moving stuff, and if I'm going to be trying to use the artificial intelligence active track modes, which this has a subject tracking type of function in their software as well. With the DJI, I was constantly hitting the gimbal range. With this, I'll be able to track something in full 360 degrees. Now on the other axis, you do have a limit. It has a limiter that you can see there, and it does hit a stop. But that would just mean so that you can't have your phone fully rotating 360 degrees upside down that way, but you can do 360 degrees on a horizontal axis, just not vertical, which that's fully acceptable to me, and that's better than any DJI that's on the market. This is now a spring-loaded design versus the Osmo Mobile 1 was a ratchet style tripod jack on the bottom. Let me get a phone in. So getting the phone inside is fairly simple. You can just stretch it out, place your phone, clamp it in, and adjust it that way. Now, something I have noticed is that since it is a spring-loaded design, you want to try and have this centered in the spring, where you can have it so that it has the bottom fully, like if I squeeze this like that, that would make it a little bit off center. So you want to make sure that you're actually balancing it within the clamp as well, like that. You want to have it so that when you let go, it does not do that. The adjustment knob for the arm is right here, and you just loosen that off, and then you would pull it out, and you get it to the point where it doesn't fall when you let go. So in that case, I went too far the other way, so now it's falling towards the motor side. Split the difference, and you want to get it so that, there you go, so it doesn't fall when you let go, where you put it in a position and it stays there. From that point on, once you get it into a good balancing state, then just press and hold the record button and it will turn on. And now we are on and in business. Now how this works is by stabilizing it so that it's always level and tries to stay smooth no matter what orientation you're in. Now the default mode is where you only have up and down joystick available, and you cannot pan left and right in default mode, but it does do a slow track to whatever area you're facing. If I hit the mode button once, now we're in mode 2, and now I have the ability to pan around, and like I said, it's full 360 degrees, which is the best thing about this. And then you have your up, down, left, right, as well as now when you pan and tilt, you see it's more of a slider style where it's not facing the way that I turn. It's staying the way that it was. All right, let me hop into the app and I'll show you some about how the app works, because the app is quite good. Getting paired in, let me just authenticate, get into the app. It's called ZhiYun Play from the App Store. Okay, so it wants me to connect to the device. It does connect through Bluetooth, so turn your Bluetooth on in your phone. Actually, change mode and joystick work no matter what, even if you're not using the app or if you're not Bluetooth paired. But we're gonna hit connect to your device. It's gonna come up, choose your device, automatically paired, and here we are. Now we're into the app. And the app controls are very similar to what I tried on the DJI last year, and pretty much does everything that you would ever want. I'll jump into a screenshot and I'll show you some of the menu structure. Now in here is where you have some gimbal control, where you can set your scene modes, and there is different presets as well as custom modes. The reversed is one that I added. And then if you go into your settings here, custom, this is where you can change all of your rotation speeds, which is really nice actually. Here I'm just showing some of the additional settings where you can go into your video, advanced video quality, panoramic stop points. The firmware that came on it was 1.6. The camera controls, how you can set different type of grid lines on your interface, as well as it has anti-shake, which is electronic image stabilization, so you can see it crop in a bit when you turn on and off anti-shake. Then you can set your resolution modes. 60 frames per second and 1080p worked on iPhone, but it did not work on my Android. As well, you can set different photographic modes, HDR mode, timed modes, all the filters that come in, and then we get into other settings. Up into the type of video, you can have default, slow motion, time lapse, or moving time lapse. Now here's an example of how the moving time lapse interface works. So you can choose your endpoints along the way. So you have a start point A, and then you can set multiple waypoints along the path. How the tilt lock works, how autofocus works. I'm not sure what WT is. I have to look that one up. And then if you want to lock the pan or tilt. So I'm just going to go through an example here of a test time lapse, and then I'm going to set it for a 30-second video, and it will take a 30-second path through this. Now there's still some Chinese in the interface, which it would be nice if they could improve that over the future. Every now and then you'll see a menu interface that is still written in Chinese text instead of English. But now here's an example of this is a moving time lapse in motion of how it works. I'm not going to put in the whole 30-second clip, but this is how it operates. Here's an example of subject tracking. Just for demonstration's sake, I'm going to try and active track this orange. So I'm going to hit the track button. I'm going to draw around it, and now it's locked onto that. If I move it around, it should track it. But it's not perfect. Like it lost it. Now it's got it. But I should be able to get this to track me all the way around the room. There we go. That is something that I could not get to work before on the Osmo Mobile, is because it would run out of tracking range. So now I can get it to track me in a lot more range. So I should be able to theoretically drive something in a full circle and get it to track the object in full 360 degrees. Now here's also an example of one of the newest features, is that you can charge while using the device. So I'm using the full-size USB port on the bottom. I've got this specialized 90-degree angle lightning jack. So this is coming up, it's going into the phone in a 90-degree, and then I just balanced it because it does offset the camera this way, but now it's in that orientation. And so now it actually is charging while using it. It's one of the biggest problems, is that when you're shooting outside with an iPhone, that they lose their charge because of the cold. So now I can actually be doing it like this with a cable, but you have that problem of if you rotate it around, it's going to get caught up a little bit. But still, I've just rotated it and it handled it perfectly. So just be aware of your cable as you're doing it. And this scenario should allow me to keep using my phone for a much longer period than I would normally. Now I have checked the firmware on this, and it's running version 1.6. And when these first came out, I watched a couple of video reviews on them, and people were saying that you can't do this, which is manually adjust it, where it would always go back into a position. That has since been fixed. I don't know if this is a firmware issue or a new feature due to the software, but you can now totally do that, where you can set your scene manually ahead of time. Now it's currently the dead of winter right now, and we're in the middle of an ice storm, so I can't really go out and show you a lot of footage, but I did get a chance to go and use this earlier this week, and so I'll pop in some footage of what I shot on this gimbal with this phone. Stay. You have to stay. I can now rotate it fully 360 degrees. I can go all the way around. No limit. I can just keep going. That'll make you dizzy, right? Yeah, you can just keep going. Cool. One of the other features of the Smooth Q is that you can change the mount to a portrait style orientation. By me loosening off this, I can now rotate this 90 degrees, lock it back into position. With the mount in the portrait style orientation, where you could be running a phone in vertical positioning, with a little bit of thought and practice, you could actually use this with an action cam. If you have a brick style action cam, an example of one, this is an older action camera, active on. So I can put the action cam in the mount, power it on, and now I have a stabilized action cam. You do have to use it in a kind of a reverse orientation, but now I have the ability to stabilize a GoPro sized style action cam. It'll just be a little bit backwards to what you're used to because you actually have the camera facing the front. But because this device has 360 degree rotation, this is something that, again, you will not be able to do on an Osmo Mobile 2 because you can't get the arm to rotate backwards like this. Because right now, the controls are here, and I have the arm fully backwards with the action cam pointing the front. So I can do something like this, and it's perfectly happy to run in this orientation, which is awesome. Now, the other reason that that is possible is because on the Smooth Q, it does not have a sensor to indicate if there's a device in. On the original Osmo Mobile, there was an IR sensor right here on the arm that would not allow the gimbal to turn on if it didn't sense a phone in the cradle. As long as you have the gimbal balanced, it doesn't care what you're running. Now, there is one slight design problem that I don't like, and it has to do with the way that the arm is and the case. So if you're running a heavy phone and you extend the arm all the way out, then it hits the bottom. So that means your side motor hits the bottom motor. Just something to be aware of. You're never really in that positioning until you turn it off, and then it's likely to fall down and slam against the motor down here. Also, when you have your arm fully out like this, it does not fit in the case. The case is molded a specific way so that it only fits in when you've collapsed the arm down. So every time you go to put it in the case, you have to slide the arm in and lock it down, and now it will fit in the case. Minor inconvenience, something that can be alleviated with an aftermarket case. So as nice as this is, it's a little bit limited functionality wise. Something else worth mentioning is when you're trying to use something big, like a big Android phone. This is an LG G6 in a fairly thick case. You just want to be careful about how you're mounting it because it's just barely catching on the edge there. And that's as far in as it can go. And with the way they designed that foam, there is no real way to get that onto a better grip. I could take it off the case and that would be slightly better, but just be aware of that when you're putting in a big phone. Also, something about Android is the app seems to have feature parity except for frames per second. So when I try and use the ZhiYun Play app on this LG G6, I cannot do 1080p 60 frames per second in the app, and I can on an iPhone. The app developers don't want to go through the hassle of trying to verify every phone to know what its camera can do. So that is a bit of an issue with Android in general, is because there's so many devices. In this case, it's a dual camera. One is wide angle and one is standard, and this phone can do 4K or it can do 1080p 60. If I want to be able to shoot in those modes, I would just use the phone native camera app and then just use the controls on the joystick, because that all the joystick and control stuff works without having it Bluetooth paired. The only thing you're losing is the ability to zoom slide and record and stop recording from the hand grip. I do really like this product. I think that the price point is great, the features are great, it can do more that I wanted the original Osmo Mobile to be able to do. I think it's a really good value. Check it out. I got this product from GearBest, and I'll put a link in the description of where you can buy it from GearBest. And they have coupon codes and stuff from time to time, so you'll probably be able to get a good deal on it. All right, they also make it in 4 different colors. This one is the jet black, but you can get it in the space gray, rose gold, or silver as well. Thanks for watching.